Welcome to Love Being American, where you can catch up on the major events and political issues that are happening around the country. Now introducing two millennials who love being American, your hosts, Andrew and Henry.
Welcome to episode number 12 of Love Being American. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the results of the Iowa caucus and the impact the New Hampshire primary is going to have on the presidential race.
But of course, that's not all. We are going to also explain the coin toss that took place during the Iowa caucus between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, as well as Microsoft's involvement with the Iowa caucus. Andrew and I will also make some bold predictions on who will win the New Hampshire primary. But before we dive into tonight's topics,
we're drinking some beer.
And Andrew was kind enough to bestow upon me a Cold Snap by Samuel Adams. This is a white ale brewed with a blend of fresh ground spring spices, including orange, plum, and fresh ground coriander, something of that nature.
Do you like it? I think it tastes good.
It's very refreshing.
Yeah,
it's kind of like especially in a hot day, it would be particularly tasty.
Which is weird because it's a winter beer. Right,
it's a winter
Cold
beer.
Snap.
The Cold Snap, but I'd want it on a hotter day.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I'm a little on the odd side, so.
Yeah, you're pretty weird. And you brought me a Soul Style IPA by Green Flash Brewery. I like a lot of beers that Green Flash makes. This name, the best thing about this beer, it's a good beer, don't get me wrong, but the best thing about this beer is Soul Style, the name. It refers to the grace of a rarely seen soul surfer who leans way back on the board, making each difficult maneuver appear effortless. So, right on.
Where we are in Southern California, right on.
Right on, bro. Yeah, it's a good one. All right, well, let's get into it. The results of the Iowa caucus.
Big surprise for us, personally. Cruz took it for the Republican side with 27.6% of the votes, counting 8 delegates.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
I feel like he came out of the woodwork.
No, Cruz has been working a ground game in there for a while. I don't think that was surprising at all. I think the most surprising thing that happened on the Republican side was how close Rubio finished to Trump. Did. I mean, Trump and Rubio got the same amount of delegates out of Iowa.
But even Rubio to Cruz, who won it, he was only down 4%. He only was 1 delegate shy.
Yeah, and he wasn't expected.
Everybody else wasn't even a factor. I'm surprised even Ben Carson's around. He even got 3 delegates.
The reason why I think Trump didn't outperform Cruz when he was supposed to, a lot of polls had Trump beating Cruz, some had Cruz beating Trump. They're supposed to be neck and neck, but the reason why I think Trump didn't beat Cruz was because he didn't have a ground game. So Cruz had all these people ready to monopolize for him. He had people on the ground in call centers calling to get out the vote, whereas Trump did not.
He's just on the mainstream.
He's on the mainstream media. He flies in, does a few rallies, gives his speech, and then goes to the next place.
He doesn't have somebody constantly in there breeding support day in and day out like Cruz does.
Yeah, Cruz had like camps there. He had dorms where kids could come in and adults and I shouldn't say kids, but like teens, adults come in and stay, campaign for him. And I guess there were a couple Trump offices in Iowa, but they were covered up with stickers. And when people try to get inside, like the media to go see it, no, there'd be someone in there, but I think it was like smoke screen, so you couldn't see past them. They're like, no, sorry, we're not taking people in. So they think a lot of it was like smoke and mirrors, that Trump was giving the illusion he had a ground game, but really he was just going off of these big rallies.
Do you think that him backing out of the debate prior to the election had any effect on this?
I think so, because Iowans like to hear from the people they're going to vote for. So I think that affected him. And Trump even came out, I think today or yesterday, and said that it was a mistake that he didn't participate. But he would do it over again because he raised money for the veterans. But
obviously, Iowa's important. Don't get me wrong. Iowa, New Hampshire. Next step in New Hampshire, I think it's a bigger deal.
But before we get into that, the real surprises were, I think the Republican side was kind of boring. I don't know. To me, I was not interested in it at all.
The Democratic side was juicy.
Yeah.
That was spicy, full of life. There is a lot to discuss.
But before we move on to that really quickly, since Iowa, we've had Huckabee, Rand Paul, I'll miss you, Rand Paul.
Right.
And Santorum drop out from the Republican side. So that's
right away. I mean, they had less than 5% of the vote, only had a delegate each individually. So I think they
Huckabee and Santorum, no delegates. Paul got one delegate. That's bound to happen, and I'm sure after New Hampshire, even more are going to drop out. And it's time. It's time.
This is where the rubber meets the road. If you don't know by now, you're never going to figure it out. I know why Bush is still in there for pride, but Bush needs to just cut his law. Hey, he's got his super PAC, so he's waiting to cash in on that. He's not going out until that money stops coming in.
Exactly. He's got a lot to spend. And then on the Democratic side, that was a heated race, and
that's a race. That's a fourth quarter, overtime buzzer beater, Kobe fadeaway jump shot, 3-pointer to win it at the last second. That was a phenomenal race. Now, I don't like how it went down though.
Hold on, we'll get to that in a second. I mean, if you don't know for some reason, Clinton finished with 23 delegates. Bernie Sanders finished with 21 delegates. So Clinton was supposed to dominate Sanders in Iowa, I believe. I'm pretty sure that everyone had Clinton winning this one, and Sanders, we'll talk about this later, but he's supposed to take New Hampshire. But the fact that this was so close and virtually a tie, and how big of, Hillary Clinton is arguably the most recognized woman in the world, and the fact that Sanders could almost come out from nowhere and tie her. In baseball, what is it? The tie goes to the runner?
Tie goes to... not anymore.
Not anymore?
That's an old saying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, I was going to use...
Yeah, either way, it works.
I was going to use that expression for this, because I feel like...
It's a great analogy.
Clinton claims victory on this, which...
But this is not a...
No, in this case, I think tie goes to the runner.
It's not a victory for Clinton. She needed to absolutely trounce Sanders for it to be a victory. And fortune was on her side. She is Lady Luck.
People started attributing Hillary's victory to a lucky stream of tie-breaking coin tosses.
So the delegates were decided because there were ties by a coin toss. We decided who's going to be the Democratic nominee, according to Iowans, by a flip of a coin. The most powerful position in the world is decided by a quarter flipping.
And here's how it went down. So it was reported that as many as 6 precincts that were tied were decided by a coin toss, and Clinton won every single one.
The odds to do that are astounding. 1 in 64 to win 6 coin tosses in a row. Less than 2%.
Which is insane. But...
hit the roulette table.
Yeah, seriously, she should have been in Vegas. However, there's some inaccuracy to this reporting. Since the Iowa Democratic Party officials reported that there were at least a dozen coin tosses. So, at least 12 coin toss tiebreakers, and Bernie won a handful of them. So he won at least 5, which means Clinton still could have easily won 6. I don't know if they're in a row.
7 out of 12?
Yeah. But
if it's 6 in a row, that's pretty remarkable.
I don't think you can ever prove that it's going to be 6 in a row because you don't know when these handful took place.
They could have been reported an hour later, or the story sounds better if she won 6 in a row.
Yeah, it's a good story to sell. So it's not necessarily true. And however, even if Hillary did win all 6 coin tosses in a row, and then, there were no other coin tosses, it would still make little difference in the outcome because of how the delegate system works. So we'll explain how this works, and then we'll get into the coin tossing thing a little more. So let's just say there are 5 delegates in precinct 1 to be awarded. If there are 15 people in that precinct that go for Bernie and 15 that go for Clinton, and no one on either side can be swayed. No one from Clinton's
no
going
one's
over to
backing
Bernie.
down.
Yeah.
Those 15 supporters on one side, 15 supporters on the other. They're doing a tug of war. No one's budging.
So what they ultimately come down to is they flip a coin. And the result is that Clinton and Bernie each get 2 delegates, and the final delegate goes to the winner of the coin toss.
Seems fair. What's your alternative in?
My ideal alternative in that situation,
right,
other than flipping a coin, personally, I think the coin toss is stupid.
I completely agree, but I can't think off the top of my head something like what. How do you decide? Rock, paper, scissors?
No.
Would that be a better 1 out of 3 chances?
I've got an alternative, because I think the coin toss is better left to deciding football game kickoffs and choosing the first grade line leaders. I think that you stand it out.
You see who's more loyal.
Yeah, who's more loyal? All right, none of you guys are moving. We're standing here all night. And then I want the Bernie side. We're standing here all night. Hillary side. We're standing here all night too.
See who holds out the longest.
Yeah, that's what I want. Like, that's democracy. Like, let's see who's tough. You're gonna back up your candidate. Let's see you back them up.
I like it.
Honestly, I think the coin toss is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're telling me we're living in the 21st century. We're like going with this archaic system. We're choosing an ex-president and awarding delegates to a freaking game of luck.
Chance. We're leaving up
chance. I'm sorry, not even
luck. No, it's luck. I mean, chance, luck. We're just flipping a coin. That's all we're doing.
So this is how the delegate system works, at least on the Democratic side in Iowa, to give you a little more context to what goes on when someone wins the delegates. So there are 1,683 precincts on the Democratic side for the Iowa caucus. Those precinct caucuses elected 11,065 delegates to county conventions, which take place on March 12th. That universe of 11,065 delegates is whittled down to 1,406 who will attend the Congressional District Convention on April 30th and the State Convention on June 18th. And here's what's the cause of all the confusion. The breakdown of those 11,065 delegates is not reported on caucus night. What is reported, what Clinton's 49.9 to Bernie Sanders' 49.6% is based on, is the state delegate equivalents. Those are estimates of how many of those 11,065 delegates will attend the congressional district and the state conventions.
Wait. Back up a second. So you're telling me, if I'm understanding this correctly, that we are guessing to begin with those 11,065 delegates of who's going for who, and then on top of that guess, that estimation, we're flipping a coin to decide the outcome.
Yeah, so
okay, wow.
It's extremely complicated. I barely understand it.
Right,
I'm sure if you're listening, it's even harder to understand because I'm looking at the numbers. What the government does is they try to find a complex solution to a simple problem. Because this delegate system seems
it's way too difficult.
If the average American can't understand it or has a hard time comprehending it, then I don't think that should be our system.
Okay, so we all went to kindergarten. We all stood at the swing set. And we all had to count. We had to count to 50 or 100 to decide when somebody's time on the swing set was up, right? I think a direct vote of counting is way better than an estimation. Yeah, obviously, I don't think... I mean, we have 320 million people. Obviously, not all of them can vote. However, even if we were to directly count all those votes, I think is more of a representation
than the delegate system.
Than the delegate or even the electoral college.
Yeah, that's a whole nother question.
That's a different story. But you can see my point. Very simple solution. Let's count.
Yeah, go with the popular vote. And this is a great example of the stupid coin tossing of why this caucus system is probably outdated. There's too many people now. It's getting too confusing. Just switch to a popular vote, kind of like what the Republicans do,
with the technology
although they still do have
delegates. With the technology we have today, how easy would it be to count?
I don't know why our whole country hasn't switched over to a popular vote system. Especially being in California, I personally feel like my vote never counts.
It never matters.
Because we always go Democrat.
Right. What's the point of voting for a lot of people? That takes away their significance.
Yeah, it does. It totally takes away your significance.
We should all vote. Yeah, absolutely. In California, you're going to lose if you don't vote a Democratic.
Yeah, I never vote for a president in a presidential election. I just write my name in for president because I know my vote's not going to count unless I'm voting for a Democrat. So I just write my name in. This coin toss incident is a great example of why this system, especially the caucus system, is a little archaic and maybe out of date. I think if the American people can't understand it, and who knows, maybe we're just dumb, right? Maybe we don't get it, and everyone else does.
We're not the sharpest tools in the shed.
But I think when you start having systems that the average American doesn't understand, I've read a lot of articles, and it seems like most people have a hard time explaining it, then it's not a good system to use.
Things should be as simple as possible.
Yes. I think that these complicated systems, like our tax code, which is ridiculous, things need to be simplified so everyone can understand and use them better. And I think the caucus system is a great example of something that could be simplified.
Agreed.
So let's move on. Another really interesting story is Microsoft's involvement in the Iowa caucus. Microsoft developed a software for the Iowa caucus that gave up-to-the-minute updates as the results came in.
How did they get these updates?
So how they got these updates was local officials from both the Democrat and Republican parties used their own versions of the app to report vote tallies. Precinct 11, the Republican Precinct 11 said, okay, here's the vote tallies for our precinct. And they typed them into the app. And then from there, the data got uploaded to Microsoft's cloud platform and then distributed to the Republicans throughout the app.
Who inputs these numbers into this app?
A local official from the party.
One local official,
I'm sure,
is in control of...
Yes, but everyone can see it. So if that local official were to type in 15 for Trump when it was really 5, everyone would see that. Okay. So there is some accountability that's going on. I believe that's how it works. I don't know for sure. The app was developed to help improve the speed and accuracy of caucus reporting because of the whole fiasco that happened in 2012. So, and for those of you who don't remember, in 2012, Mitt Romney at first appeared to be the winner of Iowa for weeks. So he walked home, totally thought he had this thing in the bag. But instead, it actually came out, a few weeks later that Rick Santorum actually won. At the time, he didn't get to take any credit or momentum from that because it was being reported Mitt Romney won. And it was by a margin of 8 votes, and it was this whole complicated thing. And basically, Rick Santorum, he got screwed over in the process. So Microsoft came in and said, we have a solution to this problem, and implemented it. The system before was way worse. Microsoft system replaced a touch phone reporting system. Officials would pick up the phone, dial, and be like, press 1 for this many votes. Or something crazy like that. So, that sounds...
archaic.
I think this is interesting. You have a private company coming in...
Corporation.
Yeah, a private corporation coming in and saying, hey, we want to help you with the voting process and make things simpler. Personally, I think that...
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think technology companies could really help prevent voter fraud, increase accuracy.
But not only increase participation. The easier you make it to vote, the more participation we have.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right? Because then instead of going to the old, I personally think the old traditional way of you have to go to the community center, you have to go to the school down the street, take time out of your day. With what we have technologically is primitive.
You could essentially implement ways to get rid of that. And now it might require, people to get their IDs verified. It'd be a whole process, but yes, there are ways in this day and age. I believe there
could be alternatives.
That's a great point, and I completely agree. You got to look at this there's always going to be error. If you go back to saying...
They're humans.
Yeah, the good thing about pencil and paper is no one can hack into it. No one can hack into the notebook I have in my desk right now and steal all my ideas. But they could do that to my computer.
Absolutely.
What you have with the pencil and paper system is human error. And what you have with a computer system is computer error. Now, the computer error
is far less than human error will ever be. But it is far more easy to manipulate.
Yes. If the foreign forces, hackers, other countries, people can get in there and tamper with it. And it could be, it's prone to vulnerabilities and data breaches. And that could cause...
You could be thinking you're voting for Trump, and you end up voting for Marco Rubio.
Yeah. And a lot of people accused...
kind of like what happened with the Gore and Bush down in Florida.
Yeah, the hanging one.
It was in between or something. There's definitely some possibilities for fraud.
Yes.
However, I believe that they can be worked out.
But I think what deserves a more in-depth conversation before this starts happening on a larger scale is, should corporations be able to help with the political process and compile voting data and making things more efficient while donating money to candidates?
That's a conflict of interest.
Marco Rubio received $33,000 from the Microsoft Corporation.
And ironically, he did pretty darn well in that election.
Yeah.
Nobody thought he was...
I honestly don't think Microsoft did anything. I don't think there's any conspiracy there. It would have been known, and Microsoft would have had to shut down the whole system while it was in use to reconfigure votes. Right. I read this whole thing on it. But I think that if you're a corporation and you want to help make the voting thing more efficient, that you automatically forfeit your rights to contribute to any candidate in that political process. That should be a law.
We already have an issue And Bernie Sanders, he's on his high horse about it. Obama was saying that, we got to stop these private interests using money to influence political candidacies. A corporation is a person by law. So then by definition, if a corporation is helping with the voting process and donating money, there is a person that has a conflict of interest.
I think that if we want companies to help with this process, that they need to opt out of contributing.
And there definitely needs help.
Yes.
That is apparent. There's too many problems with the complexity of voting in the caucuses, as we discussed, with the potential for human computer error, fraud, all these things. There needs to be some investment into fixing this problem. Like you said, a simple fix, a simple solution. However, it is an utter and complete conflict of interest for Microsoft to donate money and be a part of the way people vote.
I agree. And I think that the American people need to be cautious of this as it becomes larger scale. This is a test run for something bigger. People could say we're being paranoid. I don't think so. I think it's something that should be looked at. So let's move on to New Hampshire. The Granite State primary is coming up on this Tuesday, February 9th. Their slogan is Live free or die. There has only been one candidate to win the presidency without winning New Hampshire, and that was Bill Clinton in 1992. So New Hampshire is kind of a small state. They only have 1.3 million people, but the people of New Hampshire are some of the best presidential voters in the country. In 2012, they ranked 4th in the nation for voter turnout, with 71%, compared to a national turnout of 75.5%.
57.5%.
Thanks for correcting me. They pride themselves on vetting candidates for the nation.
And I think one of the reasons why there's such a high turnout, and this is actually something, especially us from California, if you're a Republican, you can only vote for a Republican. You're in a closed primary. If you're a Democrat, you can only vote for a Democrat. In New Hampshire, it's an open primary where any voter, you're independent, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. You can vote for whoever you want. And I think that freedom allows people to vote. It gives them
more choices,
but it allows them to think their vote matters.
And in a way it does, because look, they've picked almost every president except for Bill Clinton.
Absolutely.
I'd go out and vote too. Hillary Clinton is expected to lose in New Hampshire big time.
So as of today, in the recording of this podcast, the New Hampshire Democratic poll from the Huffington Post has Bernie Sanders with 55.6% of the vote, Hillary Clinton with 37.2% of the vote. Now, this is, I think, obviously Bernie has ties to New Hampshire. So while New Hampshirites, people of New Hampshire, I don't think this particular caucus is as significant as in the past. Because there's a bias
Bernie Sanders is right
Bernie
next
Sanders.
door to, because Bernie Sanders is the senator of Vermont. And he's right next door to New Hampshire.
So I think there is a little bit of bias. It will always be significant, but I think this election, New Hampshire caucus is more important for the Republicans.
Yes, I agree. And on the Republican side, Trump is ahead by a lot. He's polling at 33%. Behind him, Cruz at 11.7%. Behind that is Rubio at 10.7%, who's tied with Kasich, and then Bush and Christie. So I think that's going to be interesting. I totally agree that this New Hampshire is a lot more significant for the Republicans than Iowa.
Even if Bernie wins, it's a split between Iowa and New Hampshire with the Democrats, and I think it's a wash.
The thing with Bernie and Clinton is that I think Bernie's going to win this one, but I think he's going to have a hard time winning states after this.
Yeah.
So Clinton has a national campaign.
I think Bernie needed to win. I don't think he just needed to win it.
I think so too. So that'll be interesting to see. Who do you think will win the primary for the Republicans in New Hampshire?
Trump.
I'm going to go with Trump too. I think the top three, Trump, I think Rubio needs to finish second. If he doesn't, it's a loss for him.
Cruz doesn't need to win. But if he did, I think Trump's in a world of trouble.
Yeah, if Trump doesn't win this, he's gonna be hurting really bad. He might be done.
He might be done.
So we'll see if Cruz finishes top three. I think he's going to. I think it's going to be Trump, Rubio, and Cruz. And then, obviously, I think without contest, Bernie Sanders is going to win.
Bernie's going to win it.
And he needs to win by a landslide in order to keep his campaign going.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, let's move on to the Schmuck of the Week.
And this week, we have credited ourselves as the Schmucks of the Week.
Yes.
Because of our horrendous and terrible primary predictions for the Iowa caucus.
Yes, we made some. The
Like,
title
not
of the
even-
episode
not
was
even
bold predictions.
close.
Yeah,
Not
we were
even
off.
close, just considerably off. So we're the schmucks of the week. Now, Super Bowl Sunday's coming up.
This podcast is coming out on Super Bowl Sunday.
Coming out on Super Bowl Sunday. And we're going to make predictions for the Super Bowl. We, as Americans, we love the Super Bowl. We're going to eat a ton of food and drink a lot of beer.
And eat a bunch of chicken wings.
Oh, so many chicken wings.
Henry, who do you think's going to win?
I'm going with the Broncos. I think Manning, I think he's been conserving his energy, conserving that arm and those legs. He's going out, guns blazing. He's been just teasing everybody with these duck farts, getting in the Carolina defense all in happy and excited, thinking they're going to destroy him. He's going to come out. That old man's going to turn into the 27-year-old Peyton Manning that we all know and love, and he's going to tear apart that Carolina defense that has been so raved about.
That's really passionate. I totally disagree. I think Carolina is going to dominate the Broncos. That Panther team has a lot of fun on the field. You can tell when they're out there playing.
They do have fun.
They have fun and they dominate.
Absolutely.
And I think they're going to bring
I agree.
that high level of energy to the game, and they're just going to
But the
run
ringleader
over
of
it.
that is Cam Newton. And I think Denver's defense is going to put a licking on Cam Newton. And after that, there's nobody else behind him.
That Panthers are literally going to take a bite out of the Broncos.
The sheriff is going to make his last stand. And
Get
he's
out
going
of
to
here.
ride home in glory.
All right, you want to make a bet? Let's make a bet. We're
Let's make a
recording
bet.
this to
We're
make it
recording
official.
It as a bet. $20.
All right, $20. Sounds good. $20 bet. All right, we'll make sure you have everyone listen here. Henry will be paying me $20 next week, so we're good on that.
You should, if you're so confident, put some odds on that.
No, we're just
Oh,
straight up
okay.
with it.
Not that confident.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining Henry and I this week. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us. If you enjoyed listening to this episode and want to show some patriotism and love to the Love Being American community, we ask that you leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Even one rating has a huge impact on our rankings, and it helps more millennials like yourself find the show, and it gives us a higher ranking in iTunes.
And of course, each week we give out a t-shirt to somebody who gives a 5-star review. This week's t-shirt's going out to K Brandt. K Brandt, if you're listening, please send an email to andrew@lovebeingamerican.com with your name, address. We'll ship you the shirt. Make sure you also visit our website, lovebeingamerican.com, during the week. Check out our blogs, our podcasts, listen to past episodes, send questions, comments, concerns. We can give feedback, keeps us going. We love it. With that being said, I'm Henry.
I'm Andrew.
And we love being American.